Adding symbols and metaphors. We're just going to touch on this. We spent quite a bit of time on this in the longer workshop. Metaphors and symbols really help tell your story visually in a way that everyone gets it on a universal level. So I give you a list of hundreds of metaphors and symbols that you can use to layer into your story, and you get a really good sense of what your story is about with the theme. You can use metaphors and symbols to show character traits or all sorts of things. So a metaphor is an action or a sound that represents something else, such as a character blowing out a candle to show the death of a loved one. So that's a character doing something, that's an action. A symbol is a thing or object that represents something else, such as the candle being in the shape of a ballerina to show how graceful maybe the dead person was in life. So that would be a symbol. What types of symbolic activities, props, music, sounds, colors, words, dialogue, fables told in the story? You could have a character tell a metaphoric story, maybe an Aesop fable, or you could make up a fable. You could stage your characters metaphorically or symbolically. Maybe you have 3 characters on the screen that are in a love triangle, and they're positioned in a triangle in the frame, and there's a table with a bunch of knives and guns in the middle, just to show that there's this conflict. That's very symbolic. People get that. A picture's worth 1,000 words, and it really comes in using symbols and metaphors. Even the cars people drive, they do a lot with that in films and TV shows, tell us who those people are in a way. If they're driving a Hummer, you think differently about them than if they're driving a pickup truck or a black Mercedes, or they ride a motorcycle. You get a different feel for those. So shown here is a combination of a number symbol and an animal symbol. This is Sleipnir, the legendary 8-legged horse ridden by Odin in Norse mythology. And this combines 2 different symbols. So 8 legs. 8 is like a spider. Spiders have 8 legs, and they're known to be able to go between worlds, much like this mystical horse. So if you're doing animation or 3D animation, you can make an 8-legged horse, and that's something interesting and original that people haven't seen before. So I encourage you to think of your symbols and metaphors for animation too, if you're doing one of those types of films. So here are some ideas to get you started. There's a much longer list in your workbook with the object or action and what it might mean, and this will give you a sense of how to include these in your stories. And a lot of times if you're not sure what a symbol or object means, just think of it like a sunflower. What do you think of? They're kind of regal, and they're big, and they're gold, they're solar, they're hopeful, they're beautiful. They have this quality about them of strength, and they're tall. So those are the types of adjectives you'd use to describe a sunflower, which is a good way to get to the symbolic characteristics of it. But certain things are cultural too. So if you had a shot of a black crow in a tree with snow all around in the winter, that would communicate death, because black crows, they're black, that's death-like. The crow is often associated with eating dead things. They're also magical and have a lot of supernatural connotations to them when you see a crow. Maybe with this crow sitting in a tree in the winter, maybe it's almost nighttime. So nighttime, time of day, is a type of symbol where certain things happen at night that don't happen in the morning maybe. And then maybe you have lightning bolts that strike in the distance. Now lightning bolts, what would those mean? Lightning bolts are unexpected. You don't know when they're going to come. So that's an unexpected change. They're also dangerous because you could get struck by lightning. So they have that element. And snow, that's like winter and death. So if you had all these things in a frame, just a simple shot would communicate this kind of death, magic, supernatural change thing going on, just in one shot. So those are the types of ways you layer things together to tell a visual story, because you don't want to use that much dialogue. You want to tell things with pictures as much as possible. So what type of symbolic settings could your story take place in? Every one of your plot points and every scene should be some sort of symbolic setting. And in the 20-hour workshop, we go through a list of There's a really long list of symbolic settings, and we talk about what each setting is used to convey. Such as a family dinner table. You'll see this in lots of films, because family dinner tables really communicate family dynamics, how the characters are sitting and interacting, show us how that family's doing in a sense. what kind of table they're at, what kind of conversations are being discussed, what kind of music's playing in the background. These are all telling us about this family, and it's a symbolic thing. Everyone's sat down at a dinner table. If you have two characters standing by a cliff, that's danger. One of the characters could push the other one off the cliff. So we get that there's a tension there. If you have a character going into a cave, that's a journey into the unconscious side, dark secrets, somewhere you go that's hidden. If you have a character standing on top of a mountain, they are probably having some sort of epiphany, or they have some sort of expanded vision type of thing. Maybe they've just accomplished some goals. They climbed a mountain. That would be a good way to show that. A train station. Characters at a train station, what is that going to tell you? What do you think of when you think of a train station? Maybe there's restless energy. Maybe they're always moving, or maybe it's a new beginning, or maybe it's an ending. Maybe they're leaving a place and they're never coming back, or there's some sort of just constant moving going on. Take a moment now to choose some symbolic locations, or just some straight symbols or metaphors for your story. And these things can also change throughout the story, and we talk a lot more about this in the longer workshop. But for instance, in the movie Braveheart, Mel Gibson's character, as a little boy, when he goes to his family's funeral because they've all been killed by these people, this little girl comes up and gives him a purple star thistle flower, which becomes a symbol that's used throughout the whole story. And he keeps this purple star thistle flower, and it had been pressed in a Bible, so it was flat. So just having a star thistle pressed in a Bible is symbolic. That's like love. It's like holy love. Just using those two. Just a simple shot of that, him pulling it out of the Bible as a young man. It shows us how he feels about this woman, and that someone was kind to him at this funeral and gave him this really tough kind of plant. It's not a cliche symbol. She didn't walk up and give him a rose. That would be too soft for this story. She gave him a thorny star thistle, and there's so much blood and death in that movie that it was a great symbol. And he comes back as a young man, and he still has this flower, and it turns out the little girl ends up being his wife, where she marries him, and she embroiders it on this handkerchief and gives it to him. So he has this handkerchief now with the star thistle, and then he takes this handkerchief with the star thistle embroidered on it, and he carries it into battle, and he kisses it, and it gets bloody and it gets dirty, and it's this symbol that goes through the whole film. So that's a way you can use a symbol too. You want to show a symbol changing if possible. So take a moment right now and look at the symbol list in your workbook and see what kind of symbols you can attach to your story idea.